There's so much discussion of Trump invading Greenland, seizing Greenland, doing all range of inappropriate and crazy things. And I'm not going to go into whether he should or whether he will. I'm convinced that he won't do anything particularly crazy. In 2019, Donald Trump actually floated an idea, and it sounded absurd at the time. He suggested that Greenland should be bought by the United States. The reaction was instant ridicule, late night jokes, media mockery, diplomatic embarrassment, and then we all forgot about it. But what if we miss the point? What if the proposal's not about Greenland at all, but about how power signals intent, how unpredictability reshapes negotiation, and why appearing unreasonable can sometimes be strategic? And I'm reminded of Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck was a bit of a Machiavellian character, but it was his force of will and intellect that shaped and formed modern Germany. Germany was just a string of small elector states, and a lot of Germans were living outside of what would even be considered German states, like in parts of France and Denmark. Well, what if this is the madman theory of diplomacy? That holds that if your adversaries believe you're capable of irrational or extreme action, they're more likely to concede because the cost of miscalculation becomes too high. Richard Nixon famously took that kind of approach, but it existed long before the Cold War. Bismarck didn't call it that, but he certainly practiced it. He had the storm in a teacup strategy. Bismarck was not a warmonger, he was a calculated destabiliser. His methods often involved creating diplomatic crises that looked explosive, letting tensions rise just enough to cause panic, and then extracting concessions before things tipped into war. He often deliberately exaggerated threats with Austria, France, smaller German states as he formed modern Germany, coalescing states around his gravity. But then he would just stop the crisis and call them a storm in a teacup. Loud, alarming, but contained. The point wasn't chaos, the point was control through fear of chaos. And countries are always scared of chaos. Now, fast forward to Donald Trump. When Trump suggested buying Greenland, people assumed ignorance, narcissism, delusion, all adjectives you can use with Trump at times. But look closer. Greenland's strategically vital in the Arctic, increasingly important due to melting ice routes, rich in minerals, critical to missile defence and early warning systems. Well, the US already has military infrastructure there, so you could say, why be so outrageous? All he has to do is say, I want to build some bases, and they'd say, okay. But outrage is a mechanism. Trump's entire foreign policy, his persona there, rests on one idea. No one knows what he'll do next. And this isn't accidental. I don't claim that Trump is one of the great diplomatic minds of the world, just like I don't claim that Bismarck was entirely unwilling to go to war, because clearly he went several times. Just ask the Danes, just ask the French. But Trump repeatedly said allies and rivals should be uncomfortable, uncertain, and slightly afraid of escalation. And this mirrors Bismarck. It's not diplomacy as logic, it's diplomacy as psychology. Well, Bismarck routinely violated diplomatic etiquette. He leaked documents, insulted ambassadors, made threats he didn't intend to carry out. But he shifted the negotiating frame, he forced others to react. He set the agenda. It's the art of the deal, is what Trump would call it, I guess. Well, neither Trump nor Bismarck are speaking only to the target state. They're talking to allies, rivals, domestic audiences, bureaucracies. Bismarck told Europe Prussia is willing to risk instability. Trump's Greenland gambit told the world the US is rethinking post-Cold War assumptions. Everything's negotiable, and he's taught everyone that. But there's a huge difference between Trump and Bismarck. Bismarck mastered the detail, understood the limits, and carefully de-escalated after each crisis, whereas Trump often lets spectacle outrun strategy, fails to consolidate gains, and leaves ambiguity unresolved. Bismarck always knew where to stop. I'm not convinced Trump always does. The difference is between Bismarck's calculation and Trump's instinct. But the modern media misses this pattern because contemporary media is bad at historical analogy. Everything's framed as a gaffe, a scandal, incompetence. Power politics hasn't changed as much as we think. States still fear unpredictable actors, escalation, and loss of control. Bismarck understood this strategically, and Trump grasps it intuitively. So, what will happen with Greenland? I don't know. The Arctic is a frontline geopolitical issue, and Trump's put it there, front and centre. But Denmark isn't an enemy. It's a willing ally. Bismarck's terms, it's not a failure, but it's agenda setting. In the media and foreign politicians, the madman approach is problematic because it normalizes instability, increases the risk of miscalculation, and erodes trust that the modern world order rests on agreements based on trust. Madman theory only works if the madness is performative, the restraint is real, and the leaders control the exit. And it's far from clear whether that's the case. The truth is, it's not a question of whether Trump was right or Trump was reckless. It's unpredictability remaining a powerful diplomatic tool, but only in disciplined hands. And you tell me if you think he's disciplined. It's hard to say he always is, even if you're a big supporter. And the madman theory, the storm in a teacup, only works if you have intelligence and control. Both men understand that fear shapes diplomacy, but Bismarck definitely understood how to turn the storm off. And the madman theory can move history, but it can and will burn its user if abused. Really, the line between strategy and spectacle has rarely been more dangerous. And I would hope that this gets resolved quickly. But you tell me, what do you think? Is it applying a madman theory? Is he trying to stir the pot so that he can get what he wants to be unpredictable? And will that strategy work?